Hello, I'm Super Orange Cat here. I'm today with one of the two big year-end lists I'm going to have. This first video is going to be covering the worst 5 Toonami moments in the year 2021. I'll be doing another video that is the best 5 moments of Toonami 2021. I look at the entire year Toonami, look at some of the highlights and the lowlights of Toonami, and make my judgment on ranking what was the worst Toonami moments of the year. Now, let's get on with the list. Let's start at number 5. The 5th worst Toonami moment in 2021 was the ending of Fena Pirate Princess. Fena Pirate Princess was a really well hyped up anime, as it was the first of the Toonami originals, of this batch of Toonami originals, with Crunchyroll to air on the block. It began with a pretty decent reception with its quality. Ratings were pretty alright at the beginning, but later on, a lot of people started noticing how the plot started to stray away from this initial pirate swashbuckling adventure plotline and kind of more into this mystic pseudo-religious plotline where, I'm just going to say a spoiler here, it basically ends with Fena being female Jesus. She's part of a long list of maidens through her bloodline that get to decide every once in a while whether humanity gets to stay or to recycle the planet. And she decides to keep humanity and everything as it is. So, and a lot of people, and to a degree, myself included, I think I stuck with Fena longer than most people did. I vouched for the quality of the show because I kind of like this little pseudo-religious thing they're doing. And at the very end, they tried this whole Deus Ex Machina, all the choices were already made for you thing, and you already got implications this early on, indications, where you had Fena just kind of be able to figure things out like by instinct, like, I think we should go here, and her being right every single time by following like some weird instinct. And then later on, how she happened to know perfectly the dance that was needed to create the stairway up into Eden. And the whole concept of eating itself, and then like they just randomly throw in Noah's Ark, and I could go into how that actually is kind of relevant from a thematic standpoint, but I would have to probably talk for 10 minutes to explain why and kind of talk a bit about the Old Testament to get there. But yeah, it is the prototypical, and I think for years to come, a lot of people, even outside Toonami and into the general anime fandom, will point to as an example of a show hiding up its own ass. And that's where it went. A near universally negatively received ending, but there were worse things happen at Toonami. Because again, this was towards the end of the show. This was the end of the show, so it wasn't like people were going to tune out for next week's episode because there was no new next week's episode. So I thought there were worse things to happen to Toonami this year. Speaking of which, number 4. Number 4 was the 2 separate instances where they messed up airing a season finale of the show. A little bit of recency bias here because just last week you had this happen with Yashihime's season 1 finale, where it was a triple header of Yashihime episodes. They aired the third to last episode, they aired the penultimate episode of the season, but instead of the last episode, we got a rerun of an episode a few weeks prior. But we will be getting the re-airing of the actual airing of the season 1 finale on New Year's night, 2022. But it's just, how do you fuck this up? This is the type of thing, like, look, I know at night at Adult Swim headquarters, I don't know if they feed in the tapes from Burbank, which is where one of Adult Swim's headquarters are, or from Atlanta, which is like Maine Toonami, not Toonami, Maine, Adult Swim headquarters are. And I know at night it's really just at most a skeleton crew, like it's a couple of engineers and that's it. But whoever created like the exact programming should have been able to tell that this is the wrong episode. Like, it's basic quality control stuff like that really makes you wonder what the hell's going on there. Like, it's a basic day one type mistake. And the thing is, this would have probably just been an honorable mention, if even mentioned at all, if it wasn't for the fact that this wasn't even the first time Toonami did it. They did the same exact thing with the Harley Quinn marathon back earlier this year. I forgot when. I want to say this is like August. And the Harley Quinn marathon was actually one of the highest rated nights for Toonami in recent memory. But again, like this one, you had the Harley Quinn season 1 air, And yet all the episodes air, everyone's having a good time. And this is a show that does build a bit of continuity, so episode order does matter. And then you get to the last episode, and instead of the last episode, we are just seeing the pilot again. And again, same exact thing I could say about Yashahime. What engineer screwed this up? And it's like a day one mistake. And like I said about the last video, I said this. This is like the Doofenshmirtz meme from Phineas and Ferb. It's like, if I had a nickel for every time that happened, I would have 2 nickels. That isn't much, but it's weird it's happened twice. And that's just the perfect example of this, you know. Speaking of which, about mistakes, we're now going to go on to the number 3 worst Toonami moment of the year 2021, and that is Blade Runner Black Lotus's oversaturation. I could talk about all day about Blade Runner Black Lotus, whether it's good, whether it's bad, the ratings, but what I want to point specifically at here, kind of just focus in on, is the oversaturation of the show. It premiered on the block in 2 episodes, a doubleheader, aired on November 13th. Episode 3 aired on November 20th. Then on November 26th, we got the 3-episode marathon behind Blade Runner Blackout and the actual film Blade Runner 2049. Then we had a new episode the next night. Then we had another marathon. And then we're going to get another marathon for Christmas. And it's the type of thing, and a lot of people, and I'm not the first person to say this, this is showing their hand that they desperately need this to work. Not like, well, we would like for the show to get good ratings. No, they need it to get good ratings. And it hasn't. The best rating it got was 1.15, but that was definitely an outlier, because other than that, we've had a handful of like 0.12s. And even, I think, last week or the week before, it got a 0.09, which is scary for the leading show of a block. And I'm going to go a bit later, about a little nugget I found when I was doing research for this video about how Toonami's ratings have plummeted throughout the year. And stay tuned for that. But again, Blade Runner Black Lotus, it's aired so much on the block. It's only been on the block for barely more than a month. The first episodes aired, as I'm making this, 34 days ago. And yet it feels like you've seen every episode 10 times. And that's just the thing about this. And it's like they're desperate to get eyes on the show and hoping this triggers some type of viral reaction where everyone will start watching the show and loving it. But that's not happening. There's some people I've learned, or I've actually personally stopped watching Blade Runner Black Lotus. That's why I've stopped doing reviews of the show, because honestly, where something like Fena kept me entertained, or I had a morbid curiosity like with The Promised Neverland Season 2, this just doesn't interest me. And I feel that's why a lot of people are tuning out, hence the ratings being so low. And this is a pickle. This is a bad Pickle Rick situation to be in, you know? But again, this has been such a bad year for Toonami. This is only the 3rd worst thing. The 2nd worst thing, and again, another thing I think probably aided by recency bias, and that is not getting Jojo Part 6 Stone Ocean. Normally, when a Jojo gets on the block, it does okay in ratings. It's not really a massive ratings draw, but parts 1 through 5 have all been on Toonami, so everyone fully expected, Toonami's going to get part 6. It did not. Netflix has exclusive dubbing rights. And that would be bad enough because, again, in a year where Toonami's struggling to get shows on the block, outside of like the sequels of shows we've already had on the block, there really wasn't that much of a dominant shonen or shonen-esque presence in anime in 2021. To have a show like JoJo Stone Ocean that would seem like a slam dunk not be on the block really took a hit, really hit the block. And not just that, but the fact that on Netflix so far, JoJo Stone Ocean has been a rousing success. And this is Netflix. Netflix is notorious for once in a while getting like a diamond in the rough, like Stranger Things, and then just throwing money at everything that walks, only to have just so much shovelware shit on the streaming side that it's become a joke. Really, if you have Netflix, go and just scroll around. I don't mean look at the recommended for you or like top picks. Look around at different categories and go deep. You'll find a bunch of weird, dumb shit that is only worth the cost of a ham sandwich. That's Netflix style. But then Netflix was like, well, people like this JoJo. There's these memes coming out of JoJo. But let's throw money at Stone Ocean because, again, people like Jojo. It worked. It paid off. People are clicking on it. Its memes are everywhere. It's a rousing success. People are talking about Jolene. You have like the Kotaku or whatever dumb like anime news network websites doing like people are reacting. People are surprised about the first ever female JoJo protagonist. Anyone who knows JoJo knows that Jolene was the protagonist of Part 6 a long time ago. Part 6 was written like, what, 15, 20 years ago at this point, and no one complained. Everyone was like, cool. And a lot of people were like, oh, cool. And have Jolene actually be pretty awesome and badass in her own right. And like, no one's like reacting to it. And they're trying to start this clickbait. I'm getting off topic though. But again, about JoJo's Stone Ocean, rousing success on Netflix. Toonami didn't get it. And again, a show that Toonami would have probably gotten like 0.1, 0.09 ratings for, ends up on a streaming service and ends up being a rousing, well-loved success. Now, before I go into the number one worst Toonami moment of 2021, I'm going to go over my honorable mentions. There are quite a few. And there's no particular order to these honorable mentions. I'm just saying them in order. I literally wrote them down. Number one is one that probably would have been on this list if it wasn't really much of a guarantee at this point, and that is not getting Demon Slayer. That's self-explanatory. Again, Demon Slayer was going to be on the block. We would get it in 2022. And also the fact that it's not really written in stone. We're not getting it. There's still a very slim shot we get it. That's why that remained off the list. Another one was being stuck with the Promised Neverland Season 2. Look, I love the Season 1 a lot. Season 2 definitely was bad, but it was a guarantee we're going to get it because, again, we got Season 1, and since Season 2 wasn't Demon Slayer, we got it too, and you can't blame Toonami for it. It was just a natural disaster, just a disaster coming from every angle. Toonami did what they could with it, but yeah, and that's why that stays off the list. Another one, so many marathons. We got Christmas marathons. We got New Year's marathons. We didn't get a Thanksgiving marathon, did we? Yeah, we got a Black Friday marathon. We got random, excuse me, random Blade Runner marathons. We got that Harley Quinn marathon. No complaining there, but we got marathons out the wazoo this year. And that means so many nights where nothing really happens. There are really nights where a lot of people tune out, and I think that played a role in the decrease in Toonami's ratings throughout the year. The next honorable mention, Yashahime. Honestly, if you could just throw this in the same category as Promised Neverland Season 2, it was a sequel to something that Adult Swim's ended in the past. There was this kind of obligation to pick it up and have it on the block. But again, Yashahime actually was well off this list. This was probably my least worst moment I had on this list, considered the fact that a lot of people do end up liking Yashahime, and the fact the ratings have at times actually been acceptable for Yashahime, including one or two times it built on a new My Hero Academia episode. And that's why it remained again off this list. Another one, Uzumaki being delayed again. It's become a meme. Only reason why I ended up off this list is because it appears that we now will definitely know we're probably going to get it October 2022. It's written in stone, and at least there's a lot less off it. But again, Toonami, I don't think there's any way they make money off Uzumaki, purely because of how long they've had to make this, how long they had to keep paying people. And delaying stuff, you don't just stop paying. You have to pay the animators still. You have to pay everything about it. So many costs that ultimately end up in Warner Media, out of Warner Media's pockets, that I barely missed this list because of that. Another one, the fact we got more DC movie nights. A lot of people like these DC movie nights, to be fair, but again, it really ties into this whole DC fandom thing, this whole corporate synergy where Warner Media tells Toonami you gotta wear these Batman movies, you know. Yeah, like the Long Halloween, you had Red Knight. People like Red Knight, but still, a lot of people like it, but again, corporate synergy was a theme in 2020 that a lot of people didn't like, and it continued this year. And the final honorable mention is losing Assassination Classroom. We've only lost it for the time being. At the end of Season 1, we stopped having it, and it's still up in the air whether we get Season 2. I hope we get it soon. We've seen some indicators we get it soon, But again, like Mob Psycho Season 2, where it seemed like a given we're getting it, and then more time passed, and then more time passed, and then we didn't get it, to the point where a lot of people are getting worried about that, you know. But again, at the time being, we might still get it. So again, off the list. And now, onto the worst Toonami moment of 2021, which is losing Family Guy. And you'd be like, well, Family Guy is not a Toonami show. Well, here's the thing. For the longest time, I think for the overwhelming majority of the time, up until September, Toonami was preceded by 2 episodes of Family Guy. Family Guy was the highest rated show that Adult Swim had through most of the year. And when you lose Family Guy, when we lost Family Guy, at that instant, I graphed briefly, and I probably should include it, but I'm going to forget to, where the rating average plummets like 20-30% instantaneously. And we've not gotten it back. We've not gotten a single bit of it back. Because a lot of Toonami's viewership is just people casually watching Adult Swim at night. They're watching their favorite fat man, Peter Griffin. They're watching Stewie doing funny stuff. And then anime happens, and when you have a recognizable anime, like for part of this year, you had Dragon Ball Super and My Hero Academia, anime a lot of people recognize on its surface, a lot of people will stay tuned. But again, Rick and Morty doesn't attract that type of casual crowd. Rick and Morty doesn't get the ratings Family Guy does in reruns on the block. And that's a general Adult Swim problem too. The whole ratings of Adult Swim, even outside of Saturday nights, has gone down since they lost the rights to Family Guy to Viacom. Henceforth, why you really only see Family Guy on like FXX and Freeform now is because Warner Media no longer has the rights to air reruns of it. Though oddly enough, Warner Media has recently gotten the rights back to King of the Hill and Futurama, which I think is pretty interesting. But again, they're low rent and they never got the numbers that Family Guy did, so I don't think that's going to save us. And again, and that's such a big issue because the ratings plummeted and they've not come back since then. And that also, I think, played a role in Blade Runner Black Lotus's low ratings. Fena Pirate Princess was going from like 0.18, 0.2s. All of a sudden, it was like barely getting like 0.12s or 0.11s after Family Guy left. And it's nothing you can really do about it. Warner Media just got outbid by Viacom, which has a much, much, much larger purse. Warner Media being very famous for always being out of money. That's kind of like their joke. I remember seeing news stories when I lived in Atlanta where it would be like every other year there'll be this news story of Turner this is back when it was Turner, before Turner got sold to Warner Media. Turner has to cut so many more jobs due to layoffs because they don't have money. Because the only way they make money is when they get March Madness. And again, last year, 2020, there was no March Madness. We had March Madness back in 2021, which probably helped Toonami's budget a bit. But again, that's why probably the reason why 2020 Toonami's budget was out of a ham sandwich. That's why we got stuck with Ball Masters. That's why we got stuck with Jimison Death Beats. That's why we got stuck with Paranoia Agent, because they had no money. And that's why I think, since it's such an all-encompassing thing, that's why I thought that was the worst moment of Toonami in 2021. What are your thoughts? What do you think the worst moment of Toonami in 2021 is? Did I miss anything huge? I probably did. I literally listed stuff by looking at my old videos, so I might have missed something that kind of fell through the cracks. Leave your comments, leave your opinions down below. I'm the Super Orange Cat, and that is all.